Hey, there I am. I was just looking back at this new thing over here, Mike Griffith. Are you live, Mike? Are you over there?
I don't know. I'm live.
This is a rough opening. It's not a cold opening.
It's
a rough opening.
Season 3, episode 1.
Season 3, episode 1. Behind me here, I'm Louis Amostoy, by the way. There it is. And Jason Galvin here from Channel 17, KGET, is here. And we're going to have a fun show. We have a full hour of motorsports conversations. And we got in the bullpen, actually, around the corner, got none other than Steve Hughes. Scott Schweitzer from Bakersfield Speed will not be able to join us today, but Blake Bowser will be here to talk about what's going on at Auto Club Formosa Raceway. Steve Hughes from KCRP has brought with him Brian Olson. I'm talking about the winter showdown and exciting stuff.
What show is this anyway?
What's that?
What show is this?
This is the Baco Motorsports Power Hour, and there we go. So, Mike Griffith, how are you doing over there?
I am doing well. It's early in the season.
Early in the season,
but already critical.
It's hard to believe that we're already here in the beginning of the year here, and it's like we got a big race coming up here in a couple weeks over at KCRP. The March meet is the week after that. Bakersfield Speedway opens its season, so before you know it, boom, we're right back at it.
All right, and we're running at Daytona. NHRA opened last weekend at the Winter Nationals. Beautiful weekend down there. I believe Jason was there.
Right?
It was a great weekend.
Great weekend for you guys. I saw some of your videos from NHRA. I want to ask you about that because you got some great roots in the sport of NHRA and in motorsports in general. But we got some business to take care of. Chris, can you go to the next couple slides here? We'll go through, and we got some business, again, brought to you by the Bakersfield Californian. We've been covering racing since the beginning. Season 3, show number 1. I think this is right about our 80th show, right around all time, I think, right in that range.
And there's somebody who's been in motorsports forever on that slide, Bill Dunlap. What a great guy.
Right. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. You'll find all this on our Facebook page as well. And moving right along, this is the Grumpy Griff Awards, the weekly feature that you do every week, and it's pretty basic. It's selected weekly. We tried the fan vote last year, and what ended up happening, Jason, just so you know, was that there were certain mini dwarf drivers that would stuff the ballot box. And
mini dwarf drivers they're good at pooling their collective talents.
Because you could go in there and vote,
right,
and vote and vote, yep. And when you're 7 years old, don't have a job, you have a lot of time to vote.
It's not repetitive. They just click.
It was great, though, because 6 of the 10 most looked at things in the first half of last year were the fan voting. So we may have to look at that at some point, and then it kind of tailed off at the end there. But the big one is don't irritate Mike and be kind to goats. Those are our rules here.
And baby goats especially.
Baby goats especially. Do you think you're going to have – we're not going to have the Power Hour page in print tomorrow. We'll have that probably in a couple of weeks when we get back into things fully. But the first driver of the week coming out of the KCRP, that could be Derek Thorne, our 2015 Driver of the Year. Who do you think?
Yeah, there could be a lot.
You could have one. You could have one this week if we did the page, because you could have Brad Pounds. Maybe?
I would probably do Brad Pounds. He had a heck of a drive. That was a heck of an A-mod race out there, and I got to give John Piker credit for that track. That turn 1 when they first opened it's tight.
Right.
I don't call it 1 and 2. It was so tight. It was like a triover. That was 1, and the others were 2 and 3.
Right.
But he's worked on that track a lot, and that turn 1-2 is still tricky and a little different, but he's got that track really racy, and that A-mod race was a very good race.
All right, moving on. This will come back again this year. Last year was the first time we ever did this, and I'm just going to show this to everybody. The Fast Trip Motorsports all-area team, there was part of the team that we had, and let me see if I have any more. I don't have any more, but in our special section, by the way, which we need to sell these, Mike. Don't you think? It was awesome.
Get Kevin to sign them. Make them collector's items.
Yeah, exactly. This was awesome. Look at that. We had all of these guys in there. So we're going to do that again this year. Fast Trip has signed up to do it again. They were really pleased with how it turned out. And Mike, I think you worried about it a lot last year, but when it came together, it was pretty awesome to see all those pictures.
Yeah, it's tough. You got 50-some drivers there, and we missed some mugs. Some of these guys are hard to get. We don't get out there, especially the drag strip guys. So we're going to make an effort to get out there some of the bracket races and make sure midway through the season we got the mugs of the leaders so we can get everybody's picture in there for next year. That's what I was worried about most, was having good pictures of all the drivers.
But we did have a lot of pictures of a lot of people, and Jason, you've been around motorsports for a long time. I mean, how many newspapers have you seen do an all area team?
Not a lot. Actually, this might have been the first one that I've seen. And granted, I've lived in bigger cities than Bakersfield most of my life, but it's always amazed me the level of talent that comes from this area in motorsports, and I don't think that Bakersfield gets enough credit on a whole necessarily with just how much motorsports talent comes out of here, whether it be at the grassroots local level with the histories that we have in short tracks, both on asphalt and dirt, or at the drag race level, or even when you get up to the national level. I mean, it'd be hard-pressed to find a city that's produced, multi-time Indy 500 winners alongside a Daytona 500 winner, and a NASCAR champion, and multiple drag racing legends. I mean, it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And look at this. We got some young people in here that might be moving on to bigger and better things as they go through their careers here. And you look at some of the storylines that came out of last year. I'm looking at this list. I'm like Jason Barta having a great season at Famosa. You had Johnny Bedingfield, who had a great year at Kern County Raceway Park. Tina Bell. Those are just alphabetical order, and you can look through there and say, wow, they had an amazing run of things in 2015. And will that continue in 2016?
That's a good question. I don't think you're going to see Johnny Bedingfield win 7 races. Who knows? That type of thing. Tina Bell, I think she might be moving up.
Yeah. I'll have to ask it. Yeah, we'll figure that out here eventually.
I mean, you look at the young kids. Kiersey Young was the dominant driver at KCRP in Mini Dwarfs last year, and she was out there on the dirt, won the first 2 races of the Winners Series, was half a track ahead in the 3rd race last Saturday, and broke an axle. So she could have already had 3 wins the first 3 races.
So our criteria is that you win 3 races at an oval track, you win, you get in. That's Bakersfield area tracks only. But if you're out of area, you can be part of it. 2 wins at a drag strip. And then we also have some sort of extra criteria that we have. So some people that may not have qualified under those categories, if you go to the next slide, Chris, these are some other areas you can get at. Points championship at a local track or a sanctioned series. We're not going to probably consider, we found it to be difficult to track down the points championships at other tracks. And we did have some issues at the end of the year, so we're going to reevaluate that. But if you win a March Meet championship and a California Hot Rod reunion title, and you're from Kern County, then boom, that's an automatic win. Or a Bud Nationals, or another major event at KCRP. So those are things that we really are pleased with. So, and the other last but not least on this deal, and this is another Griff rule. You have to have good behavioral issues, because otherwise, no fighting in the pits.
I'm telling you what, Amistoy will never be an all-area driver.
Never will be an all-area driver. So there you go.
I'm probably out too.
Let's talk, Jason. You are now. You came here. How long have you been at Channel 17 now?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half. And you kind of started as sports, but now you're in the mornings, though, right?
Yeah, and I'm now the one of the morning anchors on our Sunrise team.
So what time do you have to get up in the morning?
I get up like 3:15.
So you're like the end of your day now at this point, right?
Pretty close. What time is it? Yeah, 11:15. I got 2 hours left.
Nice.
Yeah.
So get back and get to bed, then get ready to go.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's fun. I don't slow down at all.
Right.
It's just not me. I can't do the daytime nap thing or anything. So I'm like wide open, and I'm sure this will catch up to me at some point, because I've only been on the Sunrise show for like 2 months now. I go to bed at like 9:30.
Wow.
I get up at 3:15. No naps. Wide open. Sometimes I stay at work late just because I feel like it. It's bad. It'll catch up with me. My wife doesn't like it.
Where did you come from originally? Tell me a little bit about your background.
So born and raised in Santa Clarita, right over the hill.
Right.
Went to community college there. Took the long way through school, so I didn't graduate community college till I was like 25 almost. Went to Arizona State for journalism school. Nice. With like literally 8 other kids from College of the Canyons.
Yeah, isn't like everybody that's here like a Cronkite person?
So KERO 23 actually has a program through Cronkite that ironically I applied for to end up here, and got shut down because I told them I would only come if I could do sports.
Right.
Don't want to do news. I'm only interested if I could do sports.
And now you're here doing news.
And a year and a half later, I don't do sports anymore.
Nice.
So it's just kind of funny how that stuff works out. But yeah, started sports.
And Lena, Washington, also from
also a Cronkite grad.
Right.
Yeah, ironically, we were there close to the same times, and I didn't know Lena.
Didn't
It's
know
the weirdest
her.
thing.
Wow.
I know almost every Cronkite grad working in this valley. I had close relationships with in college, except for Lena.
Interesting.
So
All
it's
right.
funny how this stuff works.
But part of your time though, you were driving cars though too, right?
Yeah, I've been all over the place in racing. I grew up around auto racing. My uncle is a multi-time national event winning and world championship crew chief in the NHRA. If you name a top 10 driver in the history of the
you
sport,
can mention his name.
Pat Galvin. If they've driven a fuel car at a high caliber level, there's a good chance that he worked on their car when they won a race at some point.
Wow.
Whether it be Don Perdome, Shirley Muldowney, when Tom McEwen won the U.S. Nationals in that big upset over the Snake, my uncle was the crew chief of McEwen's car during that race. So he's been all around the sport. The Coletta family and Jim Oberhofer are like his best friends, which is why I was out at the drag races all weekend hanging out with them. So that was fun. And then I got into stock car racing. A similar situation. One of my best friends were grandkids and babies of the drag racing generation. Was a kart racer down in L.A. and he got into racing at Irwindale Speedway long before KCRP existed, kind of in that lull between KCRP and Mesa. And so he asked me to just come work on his truck, and I started working on it. I was a NASCAR fan, didn't know a lot about it, and then I found myself working on more cars, and then I got to race a couple cars and won a race at Irwindale once, and then somebody put a microphone in my hand, and now here I am.
That changed things for you then
It
a little
did.
bit.
It did.
But when you go, like you were posting videos from the Winter Nationals in Pomona this last weekend, another huge opening season, a lot of changes to NHRA.
A lot of changes.
Does that feel like home to you then?
It does, because most of the people that I grew up with are there, and I feel like even as media members, and maybe Griff can back me up, or you even, when you go to big events like that, it's still easy to maybe not get starstruck, but if you're at the NASCAR race, I announced at Phoenix at the Cup race there for 4 years, and if Jeff Gordon or Dale Earnhardt Jr. walked by, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, but it still would strike you like, wow, that's
Right.
Jeff Gordon standing right in front of me. And that doesn't happen at the drag races for me, probably because I grew up with all those people.
Right.
If we went to dinner on a Friday night, they were there. A non-race season. If we had a Super Bowl party, they were there. So those. They're like everyday people to me.
What is it about this sport too that I always marvel at this, like when we go to the March meet or something, like guys just show up, I
Right.
mean, what was his name, Beckman just shows up and just walks around and buys stuff and then leaves. I mean, that's just how it is, and they seem much more down to earth and accessible. Is that how that sport is?
I think it's just kind of the Griff's been around drag racing a long time. It's just
Yeah.
kind of like the tradition and history of drag racing. They've always branded themselves. Back when NASCAR and Champ Car and everybody else, when you had to pay a ton of money and know somebody to get into the pits,
Right.
drag racers were like, no. I mean, everybody, come on in, see the cars, And I think a lot of that started, racing has unfortunately changed because I feel like a decent amount of it is the cars that we drive have changed.
Right.
You and I don't change our oil anymore. Everything on our cars is electronic. But when racing was in its heyday back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when everybody was working on their muscle cars and whatnot, drag racing is the sport that connected most to that.
Right.
And I think that because of that, most of the drivers and crew members in drag racing started as fans.
Yeah.
And they started as you and me and the grassroots car people, as to where the drivers in NASCAR or IndyCar, at some point, whether they liked it or not, had to come into a ton of money or they didn't get there. And drag racing's just not built that way.
When you came out here, and you obviously have been here for races before.
several
I mean, what's your first racing experience in Bakersfield?
First racing experience in Bakersfield, well, I was at Famoso for sure.
Probably don't even remember, right?
No,
I mean,
no. I mean, maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Hot Rod Reunion or the March Meet. I couldn't even tell you which one it was, honestly,
Yeah.
at this point. Yeah, that's been a long time. Been to Famoso a whole bunch. My first, I guess, non-Famoso experience I can remember, my two best friends do a little sideshow TV service thing. They call it Low Budget TV.
oh, those guys are great. We love those guys.
Tommy and Jeffrey they were my best men in my wedding. I had two
Wow.
of them because they're best friends. And
Wait, how do they do that? Because they're always at an event.
yeah, they had to take a weekend off.
Did they shower?
They do shower.
Right.
They had to for the wedding. That was
Yeah.
part of the stipulation. But we had to actually schedule a photographer to go shoot races for them on my wedding weekend. That should tell you how committed they are. They didn't want to miss the races, so
those two guys are incredibly hardworking.
Yes.
It's been fun to kind of watch them, sort of grow their game too.
You should see how they start. They started literally with like a $40 camcorder and a plastic Toys R Us microphone.
Wow.
At the back when the Toyota All-Star Showdown was going on at Irwindale Speedway, when NASCAR had that for the East and West Series, and the Tour back when the Tour was a NASCAR sanctioned event, and they literally started at Irwindale with that and got recognized on Speed Channel one time because they had these toy microphones and they were interviewing people, and it just kind of took off from there.
It's interesting to see the growth of them, as well as we can go to drag racing and Les Mayhew.
Right,
Yeah.
Les Mayhew is
who
another.
came out there with the low budget camera and started videotaping the races, and then now puts together great stuff over the past few years, and to see his growth in that same area has been fun.
I like to employ Tommy and those guys. I love those guys. They're fantastic.
They're
They do a
great
great
people.
job.
They work
All right,
hard.
stay with us. We're gonna keep you around. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna have Steve Hughes come up here next on the next segment, talk about what's going on at Kern County Raceway Park, where it's going to be the three of us talking to Steve Hughes about what's coming on with their big race coming up. We'll take a break. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, Corey Costello here, host of Roadrunner Rundown, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. right here on Bakersfield.com. It's the official program of CESUB Athletics. We bring you inside the program with interviews with coaches and student athletes. Of course, everybody's favorite Corey versus. I mean, people like to see me in embarrassing athletic situations. And, of course, we'll have all the highlights from around the Roadrunners as well. So join us for Roadrunner Rundown, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. right here on Bakersfield.com.
Roadrunner Rundown on Bakersfield.com.
You know, I was the Metro columnist in the Bakersfield Californian for 10 years, and one of the recurring themes in my writing was sort of the self-analysis of Bakersfield. Who are we? Who are these people? Where do they come from? What kind of people are they? My interest in the Bakersfield sound is kind of connected to that, because we are those people. We are the people who created that music. We are the people who enjoyed that music, who bought those records. Because it spoke to us in a certain way, it sort of reflected who we are. Read this book and kind of, you get a feel for, who we are.
Kern Business Journal contains news and information from local business leaders and organizations. Topics include agriculture, health and medical, energy, transportation, and more. Visit KernBusinessJournal.com to find out how to subscribe or where to pick up a free copy. To inquire about advertising in the bi-monthly business journal, call 395-7586. Find us online on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on KernBusinessJournal.com.
The new book is out. That was easy. I would title this thing sort of a description of what raising children is like. That was easy. I've been writing columns now for about 25 years. Writing has always been a conversation. You're taking somebody by the hand for 3 or 4 minutes, and you're not letting go. The new book, That